Today I'm going to talk about what agile means. We often use the word agile. We should work in an agile way, which I also believe in. And I sometimes tell my clients to do that, whether or not I use that word. But what does it mean? Let's take a step back and understand the concepts of agile. First, it's about reacting to reality as opposed to planning. Sometimes we make elaborate plans and we get caught up in the plans. But then, if we make a plan today, from tomorrow, reality changes. And reality doesn't care what plans we have made. So, tomorrow, we need to respond to tomorrow's reality than today's plan. So, by all means, make plans as long as you realize that plans are only guesses. And the longer the time frame, the more guesses they are. The next principle of Agile is close collaboration between tech and business people, working as one team, not giving requirements and disappearing and coming back at the end. The next principle is to launch regularly, such as weekly or even daily, right? A launch should not be a major event. Why do we do this? Because if you bunch up a lot of small changes into one big launch and say, okay, every quarter we are going to launch, there's more chance of things going wrong, more bugs, UX issues, users not liking it. Planning also becomes harder because if you're launching every day, predictability is assured. If you haven't launched for a quarter and then you try to launch, it may get delayed. Because there are a lot of things in that launch, we can't even predict when it will launch. In addition to launching often, you should launch early, just one feature. If you're building a major app like Google Keep, you launch just one feature. Maybe just text notes, no images, no sketching, no sharing, no no deleting even maybe. You can just create notes and edit them. No tags, no archiving. So push your comfort zone as to how small the first launch can be. Call it beta, call it alpha, call it whatever you want to users, but launch early. You'll get feedback from the market. The longer you sit in a room and work by yourself, the more disconnected from reality you get. The worse your plans are. You're building castles in the air. So, launch early. It's a reality check, and then the tone of the project changes completely. Then you get more feedback about what is important. Until you have launched, you're guessing. And it becomes easy to add more and more and more onto the launch and push it farther, farther, farther. And the things you added may not be the most important. So, in this Google Keep example, launch as soon as possible. Then people will tell you what they want. Maybe most people are complaining about sharing, then you add sharing first. Right? You get feedback from the users by launching early. And we shouldn't identify with our work, those of us who are perfectionists. We shouldn't say, oh, I launched a imperfect app, so I'm imperfect. No. The next principle of Agile is sustainable development and not a death march. It's not that, oh, by Jan 20th we have to launch, so we'll do night outs and all that. No. Deadlines will always be there. Business will always keep putting pressure. After this, there'll be one more deadline, there'll be one more deadline. So don't take them too seriously. Maintain engineering standards and maintain work-life balance. Because the game is not over once you launch, right? There'll be one more. If you are exhausted physically and mentally, or worse, if people quit for this reason, then you caused more damage than you have saved by pushing people. The next principle of Agile is to trust the people doing the work. For example, one company was telling an agency that they need to have their own process to safeguard their interests. The company needs to have its own process. That's a sign of distrust. That's a negative attitude. If you don't trust the agency, don't work with them. But let them do their work, right? Support them rather than questioning them. One concrete example would be if they want to use continuous deployment, let them use it. Don't be reactionary like, oh no, what if they make a mistake? Don't have a lot of process and approvals like we need to do a QA, a UAT, user acceptance testing, and approve it, then only it can launch. That's a wrong attitude. It comes from distrust. Go with continuous deployment. If bugs get launched, work on them uh, on a one-off basis. Maybe you'll add a test so that that particular bug doesn't happen, right? But don't distrust the people doing the work that they can't do the right thing, so we need to intervene and put in all this process. The next principle of Agile is to have minimum technical standards irrespective of deadline pressure. Because if you violate the minimum standards, then the business people, being pushy by nature, many of them, not all of them, of course, will push you to violate the technical standards every single time. So it should be this is the minimum standard we follow irrespective of the deadline. Again, I'm not talking about prototypes and things like that. I'm talking about production quality code. And then if it doesn't get done by the deadline, it doesn't get done. It'll take longer, right? But the minimum standard needs to be maintained. Not we need to launch it by Monday, do whatever it is. The next principle of Agile is to say no to what's not important to make room for what's important. And many stakeholders don't like this. They look at each thing you say no to as a thing by itself and say, no, I want this, I want this, I want this, right? It's like a child who wants ice cream and you say, no, you can't have ice cream. He'll cry, I want ice cream, I want ice cream, I want ice cream. Sometimes the reactions are of this level of sophistication, unfortunately. Actually, we should celebrate saying no because it makes room for what's important. If you say no to less important things, all your bandwidth is going that way, and then the important things get delayed. Moving on. The next principle of Agile is that the team reflects on how to improve at regular intervals, like a retrospective, and they should be empowered to. And if the improvement involves other stakeholders like business, everyone should get into this conversation with a positive attitude, not a blame game, but a positive attitude. Asking how can we improve as a team, not they are engineering versus we business, but we as a team, how can we improve? The next principle of Agile is to plan each sprint, assuming you're using sprints, as it comes. Don't plan two sprints in advance. New information may come in that makes you reprioritize. So if you plan next fortnight's work today, you'll pick different tasks than if you planned it on the day the sprint starts. So suspend judgment. Things will change. The next principle of Agile is working software over comprehensive documentation. I've seen companies with 30-page PDF files. That's not going to help anybody. Working software is what matters. So these are the principles of Agile. Sometimes companies say, yeah, we are Agile, but they don't actually follow these principles, at which point it becomes a joke, right? So it's not just about claiming I am Agile, it's about actually understanding the principles. And if you don't understand the principles, you can always ask why these principles are there. How does it apply in this case? Be convinced. If you have any concerns, share them, get answers, and then follow them. But it's not about doing whatever you are doing and slapping a label agile on it, which many companies do. It's like if someone tells you to have a healthy lifestyle and you continue doing what you're doing, but you say, I'm living a healthy lifestyle. You're not fooling anyone, right? So, similarly, agile is a thinking, not a label. If you'd like me to help your company with this, there's a link in the description. Thank you.